This is TLV1.
The Tel Aviv Review.
Hello and welcome to the Tel Aviv Review, a program dedicated to the word, written or unwritten, to thought, concrete or abstract, and to debate of all types and purposes. I'm your host, Gilad Halpern, and every week I'll be engaging in close encounters of the intellectual kind with writers, scholars, documentary filmmakers, and other people of all trades and vocations who have done something to make our lives a tad more interesting. I am now joined here by Dr. Oren Meyers of the Department of Communications at the University of Haifa. He is co-author, together with Eyal, Zandberg and Motti Neiger, of the new book Communicating Awe, Memory and Holocaust Commemoration, that was recently published in English by Paul Grave. It is an excellent window into the formation of collective memory and identity in Israel, as well as the culture of remembrance here. Hello, Oren, and welcome to the Tel Aviv Review.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
So the bulk of scholarly work in the field of media studies focuses on the role of the media in shaping collective identity and ideology in the sociological sense, that is, things about ourselves that we consider organic and take for granted. And your work here, in many ways, fits into this mold. But my question to you is, why the Holocaust? Isn't it such an extreme example that would prevent us and you as scholars from drawing any valid parallels to other instances?
Thank you for asking this great question. As indicated from the title of the book reads Communicating Awe. We're talking about this basic paradox of wanting to talk about something that is unspeakable, wanting to convey something which is beyond words, and this is the challenge which is met by Israeli media, and media in general, when it comes to the commemoration of the Holocaust. And this is exactly the paradox that was so interesting to us. Within this context, I would just want to say that, of course, the Holocaust is an extreme event, and the memory of the Holocaust is an extreme case within the realm of collective memory. But just to give one quick example, the commemoration of the Holocaust is not separate from the operation of Israeli media. It just is positioned on an extreme of an extreme of the spectrum. To give an example, the Holocaust is always there as an interpretive kind of framework for the operation of Israeli media. I give to my students examples of the use of the Holocaust in Blazer, which is a kind of a man's magazine. Mm-hmm. So the Holocaust is everywhere in Israeli media. It's extremely prevalent in all kinds of places, which in most cases you won't anticipate it to appear, but it's there. Holocaust Day, or the exact name is Remembrance Day for the Holocaust and the Heroism, is an extreme example in which the Holocaust moves from the background into the foreground, which is unique. And thus it is at the extreme pole, but still on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm. So basically what the Holocaust Remembrance Day offers here is this perhaps an almost pure instance of what the Holocaust is in the Israeli debate, and therefore it's actually it's not only impeding the analysis, it's quite the contrary. It helps the analysis in the way that it shows us all the clear patterns.
Exactly. If you look at the extreme example, it could illuminate the full spectrum. To give an example, not only when you talk about the commemoration of the Holocaust, this is on the spectrum, but on an extreme side of it, the same goes for the operation of commercial media. To give a quick example, on day-to-day basis, commercial media has this flow of commercials, content, and so on. At least within the Israeli context, this is the usual case, but you do have interruptions on occasions in which you halt commercials, for some time because there was a terror attack, because the prime minister is giving an important speech. We even had an unfortunate incident in which we had a split screen, if you remember. Mm. On one side, we had a soccer game. The other side, we had a terror attack, the coverage of a terror attack.
That came under a lot of fire.
Yeah, which led to a lot of changes. But in any event, so you have at the one end of the spectrum, you have the regular flow. You have all the in-between cases of this juxtaposition between unique coverage and commercial flow. And at the extreme pole of this, spectrum, you'll have Tisha B'Av and Remembrance Day for the fallen soldiers and Remembrance Day for the Holocaust, in which by law, commercial media and media in general are prohibited from advertising. Mm-hmm. So this is a unique case in which, especially in the case of commercial media, the whole notion of why they exist is put to question, because commercial media exists in order to promote products and goods. Mm-hmm. And so on those 3 unique days, they have to figure their role and their obligations when the main reason for their existence is taken. And again, this is unique, but within the spectrum.
And it's not only that, there's also supposed to be subject to market forces, whereas this is imposed from above.
Right, but on those 3 days, their way in which they can evaluate their success is either deemed irrelevant, because because to give one example, if you look at the 10 most popular broadcasts on Israel's Channel 2, which is Israel's most popular channel, the 10 most popular broadcasts since its establishment for the first decade, from 1994 to 2004. So you'll have the 10 top broadcasts. So you had a soccer game, the Miss Israel contest, some quiz shows, and so on. And the top most heavily watched TV show on Israel's Channel 2 was the first broadcast of Schindler's List in, I think, 1998.
Not the assassination of the Prime Minister?
Not
that
the assassination
would have
of
been
the Prime
my
Minister.
guess.
No, maybe they only measure things that were pre-scheduled. I'm not sure. But in any event, Schindler's List was on top of the list, and still, that yielded no profits to the broadcaster.
Is there any parallel anywhere else in the world of this voluntary mobilization of all sorts of commercial media outlets that, on the surface would be subject only, as I said, to market forces?
Two things. First, we do have to remember that, at least within the context of electronic media that are heavily regulated by the state in Israel, there are instructions and laws obligating them to air the sirens, obligating them not to air commercials, as I've just mentioned, and so on. But yes, to a large extent, this is voluntary. And I don't think there are many other countries in which you'll have exact parallels, not predetermined parallels. But from what I understand about the operation of French media now, following those horrible attacks, you did have a voluntary mobilization in support of this agenda of free speech and so on, and lamenting the death.
So there comes the question.
Or 9/11 would be another example.
In what way does the media dictate the agenda, or is affected by what people want to see and hear?
Right. Okay. Of course, this is always an issue of it's always this chicken. What came first? It's very hard to determine, but by and large, and I know I'm kind of undercutting my authority here as a media scholar, I do not believe, by and large, that the media dictate the agenda. I see the media, by and large, as following social agenda. I'm not saying that the media does not influence, but there now been 70 years of media research conducted in the U.S. and across the world, and if you can evaluate the sheer influence of the media on social changes, it is not as influential as social, economic background, ethnicity, religiosity, and so on.
Mm-hmm. And then again comes the question: how long will it persist? Because you're talking about a model that's a classical model, that is, of public broadcasters on TV that are regulated and subject to regulation, etc. And today in 2015, the phenomena of multi-channel media, online media, etc., is only going to amplify. So my question to you is: Is this a dying model?
If you're talking about the kind of full-encompassing mobilization of the Israeli media towards the commemoration of the Holocaust, well, it's true that electronic media are heavily regulated, but the print press, which is also part of our study, have never been regulated in such a way, and still they are totally mobilized towards the commemoration of the Holocaust. And we did study Israeli online media, and to a large extent, at least the big venues are still totally mobilized towards the commemoration of the Holocaust on Holocaust Day. Beyond that, I would say, in kind of vulgar terms, that my sense is that the memory of the Holocaust is far more dominant in Israeli culture today than it was a few decades ago. It's kind of very hard to make this argument in a thorough manner, but you must remember that we're talking about something that ended 70 years ago, which is
almost to the day. Actually.
Yeah, I mean 70 years ago, we have no perspective at all. Remember the Jewish people have remembered when we were expelled from Spain, 1492, for a few hundred years before we forget. But
conversely, it has been until it still is to some extent within living memory,
right?
Which is
exactly the point.
Advantage.
This is how collective memory works. So it is very hard to anticipate the way in which the memory of the Holocaust is going to evolve through the years. We just have to remember that the study of collective memory is more about the present than it is about the past, because it is not about what happened, but rather about the way in which what happened is used in the present. So to give it, there's the unfortunate example of our prime minister constantly using the memory of the Holocaust in order to mobilize support or guilt or whatever to his political goals. So as long as people will need the Holocaust in order to promote current goals, it will continue to exist in, at least in Israeli collective memory.
But there should be, at least when it comes to so many media outlets out there should be some dissenting voices, and there aren't any.
Okay, this is a great question, because, we can talk about spheres of dissent, options of dissent. So I'll talk about one kind of small kind of a dissent, but within the Israeli context, it is noticeable. There is one of the chapters in the book discusses the songs that are aired on Holocaust Day. And those are always kind of traditional Hebrew, solemn, the old Eretz Yisrael songs, somber songs. But you do have some exceptions. One of them will be the ultra-religious radio station, in which you are obligated to air the siren on Holocaust Day, but they do not perceive the siren to be a Jewish tradition, which is actually accurate. So you air the sirens, and they read Tehillim, Psalms, on the siren.
How interesting.
And on the other hand, the opposite side, Radio Tel Aviv, which broadcasts for the country of Tel Aviv, as you know.
The liberal progressive milieu,
exactly.
Yeah.
They, for some time, I think it now has changed, but they aired English songs on Holocaust Day, which was a kind of total breach of the tradition. So those are kind of small, kind of tinkering, playing with the conventions.
But still, the agenda comes to a halt on the Holocaust Remembrance Day.
So to answer this, if you look at how Israeli media treat the Holocaust in general, 364 days a year, you will see a rapid secularization of the treatment of the Holocaust. You see humorous sketches referencing the Holocaust. You see, it's the work of my colleague Eyal Zandberg has addressed the issue of Holocaust humor, and in many cases with very bad taste, in some cases good taste, but in any event, the Holocaust is not as sacred as it used to be, or we think it used to be decades ago. Holocaust Day is, again, the extreme example in which we kind of try to preserve the commemoration as it used to be. And to an extent, it's a commemoration of the Holocaust, of the older ways in which we kind of treated the Holocaust. And still, within this day, you do see those small kind of exceptions we talked about, but also on Channel 2, you had a report, a very critical report, two-part critical report that talked about the way in which various agencies that collected money that were supposed to aid Holocaust survivors actually used the money for various other purposes, and there was a lot of talk about corruption and so on. And that was discussed on the eve of Holocaust Day 2 or 3 years ago. And there was a backlash. But still, that entered the sacred realm of commemoration.
Exactly, but still, you would say that very few journalists and media outlets are there to question the, I wouldn't say hijacking, but the usage of the Holocaust for political purposes, whatever they are.
They do it all the time, but not so much on Holocaust Day. Holocaust Day kind of lags behind, but purposefully. It lags behind in the way in which it commemorates the Holocaust.
All right. Dr. Oren Meyers, Senior Lecturer at the Department of Communications at the University of Haifa and co-author of Communicating Awe, Media Memory and Holocaust Commemoration. Thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you.